Welcome guys to Twine Peak Storm Shield Defense 3 tutorial. So we have our main Storm Shield Defense here. Obviously nothing's built around it. You shouldn't do that. For that, look up my main Twine Peak Storm Shield Defense 1 walkthrough. You'll have the full base there as well as 2. But for this one, we're going to be doing Twine Peak Storm Shield Defense 3, which means placing our third, in a way our third amplifier if you count the main one. We're going to be defending this, and because we're now placing B, we could tear down everything that we had built here in our Twine Peak Storm Shield Defense 1 walkthrough. This one's a little bit tricky, guys. Most people probably didn't want to build this one, mainly because it has this grade here. That's fine too, but you just can't, like most things in Fortnite, you just can't build over it. You can't trap it, and it becomes difficult. However, with a decent array of traps and some good building skills, we'll get through this. So stay with me here, and I will start this up. You know what? I was building this like I did on Storm Shield Defense 2. I'm going to do this like I did on 10. Which is very much different. Gonna build some boxes here. We don't want to block off this side because if we do, they won't be able to walk up here. And even though they can walk up here, we want to split the wave to prevent the most amount of smashers doing damage. Now I'm going to create a couple alterations at the very end to consider propane tanks versus non-propane tanks, so stay with me here, guys. It's gonna be a lengthy build. I think we're gonna start with the north side here first. It just seems appropriate since I already have these two boxes set up, and little 2x2s. Now this is slightly different than the way that I did it on mine. Strictly because I'll do the traps later. I'll go through a big old explanation on the traps, but the reason I'm doing it differently now is because as I look at my build, I see that I had enough space to do this. I'm kind of kicking myself for not doing it on my own. But oh, I also broke my rule. I'll start upgrading everything to tier 2 just to save on resources here. But for the purpose of your storm shield, you're gonna want to put this to tier 3, just like I have here. Got our blast shield up. There are a few waves of lobbers on this one, so you do want to be careful. A little bit similar, only you're not building the base of it. But we are going to anchor it on these walls to the side here. See how it's anchored at the top?
Wish I could.
And that way we could keep this ceiling alive even if, or I should say when, these backward stairs on the bottom go. All it'll take is, you know, a propane tank at the later waves, but if you're first entering Twine Peaks and you focused on your building health and your building score, you should be fine as far as what you want to do. Now you could build a couple boxes up here. I don't really think it's necessary. You just double layer it here, they won't come through. You save yourself about 20 structures. And if you want to add an extra layer of protection, these are legacy ball launchers. That's literally how much you have to care about this side. You don't have to worry about fully upgraded. I'm not going to put my super jacked up 106 wall launchers that I just made. This one I am. Whee. I'll go over my wall launchers as well as the perks on them in a little bit here. Now I'm just gonna go around building everything. Now this does need a way to fluidly get from front to back. So I believe that's the take me out room that David Dean likes to call it. I don't know why he calls it a take me up room or whatever he does, but
Nope.
some floor launchers there. You don't want to put these walls. These are a big no-no. Absolutely do not place these walls here. You'll notice in my hard pass video that I did this with my wall dynamos on the inside, and I gotta remake that video. What happens is smashers run at it, so if you really need to put something there, I mean, you could do this, but ultimately it won't really matter. For the sake of this, I'm just gonna go one wood here, and this is just simple pathing stuff. Like if I put that one wall there and this one wall here, what they're going to do is they're going to come at these two walls straight on. And we don't need to worry about them coming at those back walls. You can even upgrade them if you want so they could survive a propane attack. Because let's say, you know, they break down this wall. They can't just climb over around this wall because this wall is now here. They can't climb onto the stairs. I mean, if you're at this point in Twine Peaks, you're probably not an idiot. So I probably don't need to explain it to you, but I'm just going to go into detail anyways, just for the new people who are kind of like, oh, Twine Peaks, this seems interesting. Again, these top panels are for lobbers. I explained this in my Storm Shield Defense 8 walkthrough. Might have been my 7 walkthrough. If you do it like this and the lobbers throw it at it, it'll damage the ceiling piece underneath it. But if you do like this, it's only going to damage the panel itself. Unless they hit like the very front here, in which case they would damage this wall a little bit and possibly even the ceiling behind it. However, that's only going to happen. The lobbers are only going to throw it at the front of your trap tunnels as if you're standing right here. That's why you never want to stand in front of your trap tunnels, and I'll go over a little bit more positioning towards the end of the video as well, so that your base stays intact the entire time. Okay, now this side, absolutely block it off. A lot of people like to let them come over this hill, and that's all well and good. It's just you're still spending the same amount of structures to protect it as you are to defend it, but you're splitting yourself 3 ways to defend, because you have to defend 2 different trap tunnels down here regardless of what you do. Like you can't stop a smasher wave or a propane wave from coming up right there or right over here. So if they're coming up here and you can block them off there and you can block them off here, so everything comes down the middle, you're going to be reasonably okay. Now you can path them directly to the side, you can path them directly over that hill so that they're split 2 ways. You know, you don't have to deal with 2 rows of smashers coming straight down. But if you do it like this, the smashers won't charge at the base because of these backward stairs. So you really don't have to worry about them charging at the base and destroying it. You just have to keep up with your smashers. Again, not a problem with the trap layout we're going to go through here. It's going to take out about half the wave of smashers anyways, just in the trap tunnels. Well, up until about, say, Storm Shield Defense 8, in which case you'll probably have to start shooting some. So we're going to start building our barricade here. Important thing to note is you do want to alternate between materials. Oh, I did not alternate there. You want to do better than I did.
Double jump.
The reason I put these walls on the side is because if they broke these walls and they came through, they could just walk through these walls, right? Because let's say this wall wasn't here, they could just break it, walk through. They're at the base now. Again, you want to put all this to level 3, kind of like I did on that last wall. The reason why you alternate between materials is if you get a wave of water enemies or a wave of nature enemies, if you're alternating, then at least you still have, you know, you still have walls that are going to deter them. Like a nature smasher at level 132, which is a Storm Shield Defense 9, is not going to balk much at a metal wall if it's in its path. It's just going to keep going. Same with the water versus stone. Like, you're not going to get much. So you really want to take advantage of their weaknesses. And then this last part, absolutely necessary on top of the walls back there. Absolutely necessary. Every time you have to put this up. You don't necessarily have to put dynamos like I do, but absolutely necessary to put these walls up. Otherwise they will, I find with this little protection that it is, owing to this wall, as well as these walls in the back here, it's barely enough to just cause the smashers to go through your tunnels themselves. They won't ever come through here again. Just level this up to 2. I'm going to put it to 2 myself, but I know I said I'd put all the ones to level 3. Alright. Nick goofed. Bear with me. Yeah, that's why I didn't want to. Cool. The meteor placement here prevents anything from being placed. Yeah, right. Actually, I think you can place it on the top there. But there are 2 separate meteors on this one, guys. You really want to be careful where you're placing things, and you'll see the meteor come down eventually. It's going to take another, couple minutes, but
Let's see.
for the most part here, we're just gonna do our darndest. You see I talked about splitting up the wave. Now you recognize it as that path right there, which is why we didn't build the floor piece. And that single floor piece is a big difference in the storm shield defense right here. I mean, obviously if it's here, they're just gonna beat against it. But if it was there, that's an extra floor spike that we can put down, plus 30%. And that's pretty big because on this side, you don't have a whole lot of options of placing floor traps themselves. So until they get up to here, there's no floor traps. There's nothing slowing them down. It's just straight 30 seconds. And I will build a Vanguard defense out there, but for the most part, that's kind of a big flaw with Twine Peaks right now, is that you can't take advantage of the grade, and with the meteors or the lava bombs, if you want to call them that, dropping right here, you can't build anything. And you see it's a different location. So I tried to put something there earlier, and you couldn't place it there. However, now you see it drops over here, and there's two separate ones. You also, it kind of varies a little bit because it also comes over here, and you pretty much end up with just this row right here, as well as I think this right here. But we'll see that as we go along. We're going to be here for a little while, so there's plenty of time to review everything in detail. Oops, don't want to put stone or wood there. It doesn't really matter for this outlier. You could put wood ceilings. It's just if there's a propane wave, you don't want to have them all bunched up and then throw one propane tank right at the start, and it might blow up. That's part of the reason why when I build these little walls right here, that I don't actually build them to level 2 or 3. That way if a propane like gets jangled up in the middle of my tunnel, so they come up here, you know, they get bogged down by the sheer amount of zombies, because I'm going to put a wall launcher here and here and here. So if I put these here, zombies are going to get pretty congested, right?
Sorry.
And we have about, I'd say probably about 60% of the zombies that are going to be making it out of their spawn are probably going to come out of here, because the other side of the spawn is going to be heavily trapped with gas traps, which we'll get to. Don't worry, guys. Stay with me. But there's going to be about 60% of the way. So there's a decent amount of zombies coming through. And even though that's not necessarily true on Twine Peak Storm Shield Defense 2 or 3, probably by 4, 5, 6, probably around 5, 6, 7, you'll start seeing a increase in it. So if we only keep those to level 2, probably level 1 even. If they get congested, they throw them at their feet, no big deal. I'm actually not going to put it on the front for that specific reason, because they could just walk around each other here. But if I put it on the front there, then it forces them to walk on the back end where all the zombies are going to be bunched up. So if they throw it at their feet, you know, the first time I'll know this will be destroyed, and then they'll have more opening to walk through the tunnel itself. We're going to go with my favorite, which is wooden floor spikes. Diesel 106 are more than fine for... Oh, I didn't want to put some there. 106 are more than fine for Twine Peak Storm Shield Defense 1 through... you could probably push all the way to 7, possibly even 8 with 106s. It's not going to be a difficulty. I did just level up these ceiling drop traps and retractable floor spikes. I'm going to line some of the end of my tunnels with them, mostly at the end here. I'm going to line them with retractable floor spikes. At the start here, I'm perfectly fine with wooden floor spikes, because that'll congest them more. That'll get rid of kind of the chaff, so to speak. So you see I do have 130 gas traps here. I guess I could go over some of my traps here. Now, oh, excuse me, I had to stretch. We see the gas traps here, double crit chance, or double crit rating, as the game now calls it, and double crit damage. They're level 130. They're absolutely not needed all the way till Twine Peak Storm Shield Defense 9. These are 106 with the same rolls, only blue. They are comparable to God Rolls Legacy rolls, and what I mean by Legacy rolls is if you have an old trap, like my Ceiling Zapper here, that isn't modified at all, doesn't have the perk up or anything like that. You know, you're an old player of Fortnite, you have these traps. Let's say you have a God Roll of them, so I think for gas traps, you know, you add like a reload, a crit chance, crit damage, and 2 damage per se. Maybe a durability somewhere on there. I don't know. These are gonna deal comparable damage to it. I do the double crit rating and double crit chance, or double crit chance. You see, guys, Fortnite has me all messed up these days. That's fine. I use the double crit rating and the double crit damage. I find it does more damage than, say, anything else. I know Sly Gumby has gone over some of the better rolls on the gas traps if you want pure DPS. If you want pure damage, that's fine. But as far as just clearing the wave, I don't think there's anything better than gas traps, and because I'm pairing them with wall launchers and floor spikes, I don't really have to worry about their reload time at all. I do a really good job of making sure that everything's pathed properly. And again, I also don't want to congest it too much, so sometimes I make like a 1x1 square. And 1x1s are perfectly fine for missions and that are comparable to this. So I think Storm Shield Defense 3, you're facing 82 or 88 enemies, probably 82. So it's perfectly fine for those kinds of enemies, but I'm setting this up like I would for Storm Shield Defense 10 itself. Might as well. So these are my wall dynamos. These are absolutely godly.
Interesting.
You'll see I have the double crit rating, double crit damage on those as well. Again, they hit so freaking hard. Like, look, 51% crit chance and 134,000 crit damage. To put it in perspective, my ceiling zapper was, granted this is a legacy roll and it's not a very good legacy roll, but my legacy, if it crits, does 40,000 more damage, which granted is a lot of damage. But it doesn't even do that much damage regularly. And the dynamos, 32,000, more than enough to take out damage to take out some of the smaller zombies. We're just going to line these with dynamos. And you'll notice in my past videos I talk about not putting a dynamo next to a wall launcher, because if the dynamo staggers an enemy on this tile and the wall launcher goes off, the zombie won't be flung back. And even though that is a glitch in Fortnite, it probably shouldn't happen, because the knockback or the impact of the wall launcher should knock them back anyways. But they're staggered, they're already CC'd, they can't be multiply crowd controlled, which is CC'd if there's any noobs in the party. But for the basis of these two tiles, all I want to do is just separate the wheat from the chaff. So I want to deal as much damage as I can in these two tiles. These tiles are not really meant for extensive crowd control. Once we get to this, there's a little bit more crowd control. But again, we can't put dynamos next to it, so we don't have to worry about it. We notice the wall darts here. You could put a wall dynamo if you want to really deal some damage to some of the smashers that are coming through. But I just put a wall dart just in case they get by my wall launchers themselves. My wall launchers that I placed here are God Roll Legacy rolls, triple reload, double impact. Pretty much self-explanatory. The reload speed is just so good that by the time they get back to this center square, by the time they're passing this, about 70% of the wave will still get caught in this wall launcher. It'll only be the fastest or the ones that don't get knocked back fully that'll be able to make it back to this square before it's up. And even if they make it back to this square, they're just going to be tossed all the way back. Now let's say you had re-perked your wall launcher because you don't have a God Roll wall launcher. Perfectly understandable. What do, right? These are my 130s. They're actually got a mirror copy of them. So I'm not going to talk about those, but I'm going to talk about my re-perked wall launchers. They're 106. I went through it. I wonder if I get them side by side so you guys could see. There we go. Okay, so I used triple impact again and double reload, and I added durability. So it's exactly like my old ones, just all perked up. Granted, some of the spots are different. Not a big deal. Now when we go over to the stats themselves, we see knockback increased by about 300. Durability by about 10, which is big, guys. The durability is actually really big towards Storm Shield Defense 5, 6, and upwards. You really want, for this build, you really want wall launchers that have durability, but you don't really need more than 46, because if you use more than 46, you're going to start having to tear out more and more of your defense to really get in there. and replace them on the next wave kind of thing. So like these are 36. They will probably run out mid-wave on the later, only on the later Twine Peak Storm Shield defenses. So say 7, 8, or 9. Now if we go over to the impact, monstrous difference. You know, we're talking almost 9,000 here. Over 9,000. Dragon Ball Z reference. Anyways, the reload speed, obviously 0.6 seconds. That is a big difference as well. That means instead of about 70% of the wave being knocked back here, we're probably looking at about 80 to 90% of the wave if we have them on these squares. Now, with the impact and knockback the way it is, fully upgraded like this, these 106s now react more and more like they're 130s. And we see it here. We see my legacy wall launchers that are 130s. These wall launchers at 130. It's the leveling system of the launchers is pretty much set up so that they would toss them back a square for each evolution you do. Except for 10 and 20. 10, you know, they kind of get like knocked down a little bit. That's why wall launchers kind of really suck in the early game, to be honest with you. They don't have much of a purpose because you don't get much breathing room, which is what you want with wall launchers, and you want them to combo with other traps so that you really get the most out of it. But for this, once you get them to 30, they start throwing them, you know, just enough, like right here, to get it. To 40, you get like that full back square here, which is really nice. It does use up some materials, like some char black mineral powder, once it's at 40. But it's really nice to get that full 2 squares. But if you have it up to legendary now, it reacts just like it does for a 130. And the 130 would toss it back 3 squares, all the way back here. And even though you want the extra squares to combo it, there's almost a certain point where it's too much. And I say it's too much because let's say we open this up and then we put, you know, another room behind this. Well, then we would have to replace this trap with a ceiling electric field. That's what we want to replace there. Because the enemy is being tossed through here, we'd want to get zapped, right? But we want to leave the gas trap here for whatever enemies are coming through. But then we're putting less DPS on the enemies coming through. And because this is our initial point, we need that initial damage on them to really separate the wheat from the chaff. And even here, like, you could do 3 squares here, but then you have a chance of the smashers just beating against the wall. And we are going to put a ceiling here as well. But beating against the wall and then coming around and then coming down here, so to speak. And it happens. It absolutely happens. With the 3 squares long, their pathing gets all kinds of messed up. I mean, if anybody's ever tried to make like a 2x2 tunnel, so let's say we go like this, and we go like this, and then, you know, that's a wall, and then this is open right here. And, you know, a 2x2, they don't always pass, basically. So if you tried to make that a 3x3, you could understand the difficulty. And it's not impossible on straight shoots, especially on this side. You absolutely could do a straight shoot back. And, you know, if you have this fully legendary upgraded wall launcher, go for it. But, I mean, the damage that you're landing on them is still going to be minimal and not a big difference compared to what you're going to land if it's just 2 squares. For some reason, when the wall launchers throw them through these squares, the dynamos can't activate in time, so they miss it. If you put an electric field up here, it might hit it, but if you have enough impact, or if, you know, you catch them in a good spot, you know, they're flung back all the way, and the zapper, even the electric field misses. And even though it takes them a long while to come back here, and you're really kind of spacing out the wave, the extra structures that you're spending on the 3rd square itself to put it and trap it out, not really worth it in the long run, because you're really going to want those structures anyways. Now at this point, I'm not quite sure I want the wall dynamos on that wall per se, because this is a wall that you don't want to stagger them on. but it's kind of okay too because the wall's here. So it should fire off probably when they're about here. Because again, they're going to be coming from this square, so it's going to fire off here. If it staggers them about here. And it should still give the wall launcher enough time to fire off and drag them back. But even saying it, I can't convince myself of that. But you still want this spot for mobility. And because wall darts fire through stairs, you're going to go like this. And that way you're going to have a place to put your base. And over here we are going to put our base, because we are going to put a Vanguard defense over here in a moment. But for now, we are going to finish trapping this out. Trap, 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 trap. Again, a lot of people like putting these electric fields right here. And there's nothing wrong with that, like at the start of, before the wall launcher. But because the amount of volume that you're going to be receiving in these initial waves and these initial squares, you really want gas traps in total. And because we're on one square now, we want gas traps here. And pretty much anything that comes through here is going to be smashers, which are going to sit on the square a lot longer than other enemies because they're slowing. And they walk slower than other enemies. Put my 130s there? I did. That's awkward. You could put a 130 there. You could put a 106. It doesn't matter. These squares, you want absolutely damage on them. If you don't have double crit rating, double crit damage, that's fine. If you have a reload on it, that's also pretty good. Because you'll notice that dynamos have 12 seconds on them, which are obviously significantly different from my wall launchers. And even though my wall launchers can keep them on here, for the hard to kill ones like the smashers, the husky husk, if you don't have off firing traps, so traps, you know, that have different fire off times, like the wall darts have 5 seconds, these have 12 seconds, it can be a little bit difficult. And I do have a second set of dynamos myself. These are my legacy rolls. They're just good all around rolls, I find. They have a little bit different reload time. It's nice. I'll be honest with you. It's really a nice bonus to have traps that fire off at different speeds, but just for the sake of pure damage, like you want these dynamos on these walls. Okay, so initial thing, we need wall launchers here. Using up some of my legacy wall launchers.
You serious?
Now this back tunnel probably won't see a lot of congestion. Oops. Stuck that one. So you don't have to worry too much about propane tanks, but at these end ones, you do want to worry about smashers. If they get tossed through here, these absolutely have to be level 3. They'll get tossed back into here, and they'll just beat against this wall and then beat against these stairs. Which reminds me, these are actually supposed to be slanted walls. The reason these are slanted walls as opposed to regular backward stairs is because what'll happen is the smashers can stand on the other side, or the other square itself. Kind of like in between right here. And they'll just beat against the stairs, and the floor launchers won't fire off, and the wall launchers will fire off, but they won't affect it. You really want to just make sure you got as much damage as you can. That's another reason why we have gas traps on these squares. They'll do a lot more damage than zappers or electric fields. Zappers are an option, but honestly, if they're going to sit underneath a gas trap, especially one of these gas traps, crit damage, gas traps will fire off for about 5 or 6 seconds. And it does damage by itself by firing off, which most people don't recognize. They just think it causes that affliction damage and it starts ticking, and the affliction damage is, you know, about 40% of the actual damage of the trap itself, which is why a lot of people are really high on putting damage on their gas traps. But you don't really need to do that, because if you have wall launchers and floor spikes, let's say even floor launchers, you launch this floor launcher underneath the gas trap itself, with the crit rating, or crit chance, as these are called. Why is it called crit chance, not crit rating? Epic, you're weird. Anyways, with the crit chance the way it is, even if they're just sitting underneath it, they're going to get critted at least 3 times out of the 5 seconds. I don't know why. Mathematically, that's not correct. But in-game, it absolutely is. And I wish I could attach a video clip to this, but I'm not fancy enough with technology yet. So you have to bear with my roughness here and take my word for it. But that's why we want a gas trap, because if this crits 3 times, we're looking at about 75,000 damage, not including the affliction damage that it's causing. And if you have a Gravedigger, which deals bonus damage to afflicted targets, plus 45% damage to afflicted targets, you're dealing astronomically more damage than you ever would with a ceiling zapper itself. You're looking at upwards of, you know, 125,000 just from the trap alone. Over the course of those 5, it'll probably stay on the square for about 4 seconds. So you're still probably looking at about 110,000 damage. And with your Gravedigger there, it's a lot of damage, guys. You gotta bear with it. Oh, see, now that's the lava bomb that would have destroyed that ceiling right there. Alright, now we're gonna get to this lower portion of this. I think I might have gone too far here. I made these like little quarter walls for myself. You want to put these to level 3, and what this will do is this will help deter smashers going to the side of the base over there.
Okay, here. Ow!
Again, those walls will be level 3. These walls, I make full walls just because if propane detonates down here, like, really want it to deal as much damage as it can. Now, important thing to note when doing your Storm Shield Defense 3, you probably won't be able to build all the way out here. Like, this might be your extent right here. You won't be able to build a Vanguard defense, but I'm going to cover this point in my guide, obviously, because that's what guides are for. Basically what you're building here is for Twine peaks, you know, 5, 6, 7. I'm building this all as if it was, you know, Storm Shield Defense 10, but with the mindset that, okay, you know, this is what you're going to have to build, bare minimum, if you want to solo your Storm Shield Defense 2. I won't necessarily say bare minimum. There's a lot of fluctuations, like, for instance, my 106 gas traps, they're not fully legendary. Yours probably can be, whereas mine, you know, I stuck all my legendary on my 130s, and I'm not really interested in pumping up another one to fully legendary, especially when some of my other traps aren't even at that level. However, for the sake of this, rocking out here. You see the multiple different fire off rates here. We have wall darts, we have dynamos. Wall darts also go a distance, so if they reload and, you know, they see the enemy 1 square away, they could still fire off, and the dynamo's
Can't.
12 seconds reload time, but worth it. Very worth it. Oh, put that to that, that to that. I mean, you could block off this square so that they don't come to it. They just drop down there. But they're going to get more damage on this square, and odds are they're probably going to... About 60 to 70% of the enemies that spawn on this cliff are going to be just walking off here anyways. And they won't actually break this floor piece. They will break it about 50% of the time when they spawn in. But sometimes it'll just stay there, and you just put a floor spike on it, and then they stay underneath the gas trap a little bit longer. We're going to build this over here. As far as anchoring it goes, we're gonna anchor it back here. Oh, that doesn't really matter actually. These you absolutely want to put wall launchers on the back of, just to give an extra deterrent. Zombies will read wall launchers as kind of like an extra or 2 extra walls. I don't know how much, but they path around it. If there's a wall dynamo on it, or a wall launcher as opposed to a regular wall without a wall launcher on it. So take advantage of that, guys. It's needed. When you put your base down, you'll probably want to put it right about here. Walk away here so you can see. That's where you want to put your base. It should reach 1, 2, 3, goes up by 1, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, this is the last one. Won't reach these back too, which is fine. I'm out of metal. Look at that. That's fine. Yeah, actually, we're almost done here. We just put these on. So you put your base down, and we'll obviously reach this bottom portion. Just like that.
Wish I could.
I think that was 1 of 6. We have our Storm Shield Defense 3 set up on the north side. Now we still have the west side, which is a little bit more difficult. But I need to go get more metal. Well, the north side actually is very easy. That's one of the reasons I leveled up the drop trap. We're going to see some combos played. Oh, that's what we needed. You're going to want to put these on all sides this time. There are a lot of flingers that attack B, and they are not kind about it. So... take double measures here.
Can't.
That's also something I need to build protection for, is slingers on the east side. I'll show you that in just a moment here. These extra ceilings, very necessary for flingers, otherwise they would drop down right here and then attack here. Instead of placing 2 walls, we just place 3 ceilings. Or, sorry, it'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 walls. We place our door here, but there is also a door on this side, which they can path to. So what we're going to do here... we're going to double wall dart it. And then we're going to do a nice hard dynamo, just in case there's any very persistent ones that kind of last through it. And because they're 5 seconds and 12 seconds, the recharge time is always going to be different. So if there's a multitude of zombies that fall over there, they're also going to be taken out regardless. You could put it to level 3 if you want, but honestly, level 1, more than enough. Nothing's going to attack it directly, so we don't have to worry about it. Propanes won't get over there, so we don't have to worry about it blowing up. Smashers won't go over there because we triple walled our barricade over there, so we don't have to worry about them charging through it. It's a well layered defense. Actually, if you want it, if you're really worried or if you're having a really big problem with smashers, here's this over there. I don't know if I put floors here actually. You're gonna want to put floors here because your base will reach it, but it'll only reach the whole thing if you have floors. You don't need to put them in level 5 or anything like that. But if you're really fearing the smashers, put it like that. And then when you come over, when you approach this amplifier, you want to approach from the top here, and then you want to just jump your way across. Or you just add one of these stairs, but these stairs don't need to be more than 2. And the wall darts will still fire off, the dynamos will still fire off if they come to attack it. Pretty much that. As far as these walls go, I know I said layer your defense. I didn't just right now, so I'm gonna destroy these. And I'm gonna put some stone. And boy, does building this up suck, but is it ever worth it? Because that's not what I wanted. You. When I did this myself, I believe I went like this. A lot of people use this because it deters them more. They got to come all the way out here. I think I'm going to go with that one actually. Now, a lot of people like to combo their floor launchers with their wall launchers up here. And that's not a bad problem, especially if you have different reload times. So, for instance, my super awesome wall launchers have, 4.3% seconds. Might say 2. My eyes are pretty bad. I think that's 3. Whereas my floor launchers have 5.1, which would be really good. However, there are... Oh, excuse me. The first few times you defend this, there are an obscene amount of lobbers.
Upward.
And so I want something that can deal with them. And if you do it like that, then you're pretty much opening up your tunnel to be attacked by lobbers non-stop. And that's not how we want to roll, guys. As far as floor spikes go, the rolls don't matter on them. I use double crit chance, double crit damage again, and then I attach the healing one, just in case, because if all else fails, then at least my floor spikes will be up. Gas there. We want to add a small deterrent there. We don't want to go a full 2 squares or the half square here because sometimes smashers won't go underneath that and they'll just beat against the wall there if you get any smashers here at all. So we're just gonna do it like so. More wall launchers. On this first square I'm gonna put a gas trap, and on these back squares I'm gonna zapper. I'm gonna do another zapper. You see I do have the double crit chance, double crit damage with durability on my zappers as well. Electric fields, I call them zappers because I don't really use my ceiling zappers. I just call those single target DPS, but you could call them whatever you like. Electric field is the common use name. So I will start calling it electric field. Now, if you please, we are going to do this. And what this will do is it'll cause them to path. So we'll go like this, and even though it's not too much right here, because this is only a skinny wall, they're going to come around, and then they're going to come around here. And they're going to have to go the full distance if they want to come around here. And if the wall launcher goes back off, it'll throw them through here. They're never actually going to be on this side of the square itself. So that'll be fine. Unless sometimes, very recently, since they put in the perk recombobulator wall launchers have been firing off a little bit later than usual. And I don't know if that's lag or not. But if they fire off late and they're like right here, they could catch this, then they go flying like at a perpendicular angle. And it gets weird. So only in that way would they kind of be put on there. These ones I'm going to put to level 2 or 3. I don't want them being blown up by propane tanks. And I don't really care if they get congested, because if a propane gets congested there, then something's wrong. We're going to put these walls up. That's all the wall you need to deter them from going around there, because again, we have the walls right here, which will prevent them from climbing this hill. And the next closest is all the way over there, which they're not going to path to, and they could just climb up this hill. And there's a doorway that we placed over there. You are going to want to put it to level 3 though, just to be safe, in case of lobbers, smashers, propanes, what have you. So we do see that we have a doorway over there. What will happen basically is if anything comes up here, or if anything makes it up here, or if a flinger throws it, they'll come over here and attack this wall, which you will have level 3, but you'll notice that there's a big difference in the health. So there's 3600 here. These are both level 2 walls, mind you. So if we upgrade them, this is, oh god, what does that say? 5600, and you know, this is 5400. So very big difference for a husk, especially in Twine Peaks. If you have your health structures up, this will be level 3 as well. This will be level 3 as well. You just take advantage of that with the wall launcher and fling them off to God knows where, because that's my super jacked up wall launcher. It should toss them probably like right on the edge of that cliff right there. We don't have to worry about it. And then the blast shield. You'll notice the meteorite came down right here. Surprisingly didn't blow up any of those walls. But oh shoot. That was mean, Fortnite. That was really mean.
Upward.
And we're just going to extend this out here. I'm going to put these sidewalls here just to anchor it, just in case there's any lobbers. If you're doing this with friends, you don't need this on top. This will be a waste of structures for you. However, if you're doing it solo, you want these structures. There's going to be a lot of lobbers the first wave that gets attacked on this amplifier, and they're gonna ruin some stuff. And again, I'll go over positioning towards the end of this, so that when you defend it, you can do it in an amicable way.
You serious?
But if you're soloing it, you want to put all this to level 3.
Away.
And then, got hit by some lava there. And then we go Flight of the Tires here. Now, on my drop traps, I did double crit chance, double crit damage as well, which is a little bit counterintuitive to, you know, kind of what I want to do. I want to kind of do damage and reload on it, so it just fires off, because it's a 12-second reload. But the damage on it is just so terrible that at these initial points, we really want to separate the wheat from the chaff, so that when they get to this point, another reason why we have this is they don't get congested. And this is a build that I did for Twine Peaks Storm Shield Defense 3, and it worked very effective. Aside from the lobbers, which I didn't expect, I didn't have the lobber proof on, so all I had to do was just run around repairing my roofs. As far as the enemies went, though, had little difficulty dealing with them. Just an overall good time. I'm just trying to think here in my mind if there would have been a better way with the drop traps. You'll notice I'm not I don't do much of my research before I come in here. I just usually build. I do a lot of my research on the traps, and then once I know my traps thoroughly, then I create the build itself. put a dynamo down there, so if any up the wall launchers throw them down, they'll land right on that square. Then the dynamo will go off and kill them. And that way you don't have to deal with lobbers standing at the bottom there shooting whatever at you. It's another reason why we're going to be putting wall darts there and there. Where else do they come? They come down here. Again, these are just wall darts. The reason why you put wall darts here is because the purple lobbers, they'll climb all the way up there and then they'll get tossed down, and then they'll just sit in this particular spot, and then they'll just fire up at your base and absolutely demolish it unhindered. So if you put wall darts down there, you take care of 60% of the lobbers. You can block off this side if you really wanted to kind of prevent them from getting close to the base. But I imagine if the lobber set up here, they'd probably just toss it onto the base anyways. So it doesn't really matter what you do here. They're coming for you. If anything, I'm just going to block that off. Just so they path around to the tire traps a little bit more fluidly. Heck, you know what? I am going to block that off so that they completely all come underneath the tire traps in one wave kind of thing. Because what'll happen is they'll spawn over here, pretty much between here and a little bit will spawn probably, I think, on this hill, probably about here. But if there's walls over there, they'll just spawn up here, and then they'll walk and walk and walk, and these guys will be coming around, and we'll get hit by those, and we'll get hit by those, and it'll be good. It'll be a good time. You can put that right there. I'm going to put walls around those stairs just because if a lobber comes up, they'll start throwing it over. It also allows me to put a wall dart right there. This is part of the improvising as you go along part. Yeah, we can't put anything on these squares because Epic decided to put this absolutely useless hill here, which we can build up and over, but we can't build around or down. We can build ceilings on it, but we already have ceiling drop traps, so there's no point in doing that. Just gonna put a wall dart there. If you wanted to, you could put like a wall launcher there, and it'll fire off. It's just very limited. Unless you could put a wall here and then a wall launcher there and then fire them off and then put another drop trap right there per se. Maybe like another wall dart right here. But not needed, guys. Not needed. Absolutely not needed. Especially because our next amplifier we're going to build is C down there. We're not going to need to really trap this side out too much more than this. This will be good enough for one wave, and that's all we're going to need this side for. Heck, even if you just wanted to build this top portion with the gas traps and don't even put the ceiling drop traps, because I'll be honest, who has a good ceiling drop trap? It's just not a trap you could have in the game, simply because you need reload speed on it to be good, but it has so little damage. It's comparable to like a rare version of wall darts. So it's really ugly trap. It's really poor damage, but if you get that crit chance, you get that crit damage, maybe you could deal like as much as like a regular dynamo would with full or with no damage bonuses on it kind of thing. And I mean, who doesn't like a little bit of a dynamo on it? So it'll get rid of the smaller enemies, and there's a lot of tire traps, or there's a lot of tires, I should say. So if they get hit by it, the damage, on a hill, it's good. Anywhere else, terrible. As far as positioning goes, you want to stand over here when defending the west side, because lobbers will throw it at you itself. So if you're standing over here, if you really don't want to deal with the lobbers, you could just build a box, but it's pretty easy to just shoot them out of the air because most of them are going to be crowd controlled anyways. If you really wanted to be AFK solo it, you you just come over here, put your base down right there. And then you just come stand right here. And then anytime you see an enemy, like, it'll show red. You know, when an enemy beats against the wall, it'll show red. You just stand over here and you just shoot. Because that'll draw the enemies to this wall. And it's not because you're shooting at the wall, it's because you're shooting itself. You could shoot over here if you wanted to. But generally I like to shoot where my bullets land near them, so that it kind of aggroes them a little bit more, and then they'll come towards this wall and then get launched off. That's your positioning on the west side. On the north side, you know, we already have our base marked out. Want to put your base there. If you find that you're going to have a smasher wave, you're going to want to put your base probably right about here. Just so that your base reaches these traps as well. And then you're going to want to stand back here. And then, you know, obviously if a smasher comes, you're going to stand away. There's a glitch right now where you can almost see them clipping through. No, I think it's just the metal. Yeah, you could see it clip through right at the top there. There's a glitch right now where if a smasher gets tossed in and the stairs you have that are backwards are right against the 2x2 room here. You'll see they glitch at the top. The smasher will just stand here and they'll beat against this wall, and what will happen is they'll be beating against the stairs itself. So you definitely want to turn these stairs to level 3. If you really wanted to, I don't think we have the space for it. These stairs should be okay because we have stairs for it. As far as these guys go, we're going to go like that. That'll be more than enough. And hopefully that causes them to path around, and we'll want to put that to level 3 as well. Because if they beat against it because it's clipping through at the top, and they destroy it, then what they'll do is they'll charge, right? Because there won't be any backward stairs holding them back anymore. As far as building at the end goes, I would recommend stone. Stone's easier to repair than metal. It repairs a lot faster, it's easier to put up, and it still has some health. Personally, myself, I did it with wood because it was so much faster to repair. Because I had the repair speed on the building trees, but I would recommend stone. It's a nice blend between defensive power and overall repair speed, you know? You can't lose with it too much. We do want to put, so what this will do is it'll just stop them from pathing around and up here, right? Some of the smaller zombies can, but they can't path up too much. An added deterrent, if you will.
Wish I could. Double jump.
Alright guys, this was a lengthy walkthrough on Storm Shield Defense 3, but it was absolutely necessary because all the way up into Storm Shield Defense 9, this amplifier will be attacked from the north side mainly. The west side is just the first initial wave, and like I said earlier, you could drop your ceiling drop traps over there and replace them with just the initial defense that I built with the wall launchers and gas traps, and then tear it down eventually if you wanted to. But you could also just leave it up for attacks from the north and any stray zombies that may path over there. But for this sake and purpose, we built it up very thoroughly. You won't have the ability to build out here for the Storm Shield Defense 9. However, very needed. Not Storm Shield Defense 9, what was I saying? Storm Shield Defense 3. You won't be able to build all the way out here. So just keep that in mind when you're doing your Storm Shield Defense 4, 5, and 6. You do want to build that Vanguard gas trap defense and just kind of give them the tick damage. You really get it going, especially on the west side of this tunnel. You'll see there's just no room for it, right? All they have is these 2 dynamos, and that's it. Everything else is moot point. That's actually something I need, is a gas traps will fire off here, actually.
Let's build.
I was torn between using an electric field, but the electric field's damage is negligible, even with the tick damage. The gas trap does more. I'd rather have them continuously apply tick damage than anything else, especially if they're coming up here, because, well, it's pretty obvious, because I have the Gravedigger and I'm going to use my additional damage to afflicted targets very effectively once they get to the top here. Anyways, guys, thank you very much for watching. I hope you liked it. Share it to your friends. Get the voice out there. This is a very easy soloable defense if you have this kind of build, and it doesn't really get much better than this. We'll do a quick walkthrough here at the end, just so you see it all. But I appreciate you watching this far. I actually want to put this walkthrough. And best of luck, guys. We're gonna depart here. Nice 9,000 building score. Very conservative amount. See my storm shield defense name. And tune in next time, guys.